Welcome to the Market Mystics podcast, where we discuss what's happening in the cryptosphere and trading on Earth as it is in heaven. Buckle up and huddle on while we dive in and get weird. Here are your hosts, Joshua and Kim.
Good afternoon, everybody, and Shanah Tova. I am probably not saying that right, but it is the Jewish New Year. It is the first day of the year in the Jewish calendar, and so we are celebrating accordingly.
Yes, Shanah Tova. I think that is how you say it.
Good.
That's how I say it anyway. So we can just say it wrong together if it's wrong. It's totally fine.
Yes, that's true. So, well, it is. We're going to talk a little bit about that. New year, new beginnings, different, just kind of our thoughts on it. I can tell you, both of us were like, what's the significance of the year? Let's look up some prophetic words. And both of us were kind of like, let's not try to pretend. I think Kim said this. Let's not try to pretend like we're smarter than we are, like that we understand all this. And so we're just going to have a conversation. We'll share some things that we have understood, some things we've learned about this topic, but we're gonna talk, and it's just gonna be us. We're not gonna try to be anybody else. That would be a disservice to you guys and to us. So, but before we do that, let's run through some market updates. So we've got Bitcoin, the number one coin, is currently up 1.2% in 24 hours and down 1.6% in 7 days, trading at 19,135. We have Ethereum is up 1.7% in 24 hours and basically flat over 7 days. It's at 1,329. And the top mover, which is kind of an interesting one, is Luna Classic. It is the number 33 coin in the top 100. It's up 30% in 24 hours and 11% in 7 days, currently trading at 0.00003. The interesting thing about this is I think we talked a little bit last time about Do Kwon and how they had issued an arrest warrant for him, and that process is continuing, but the coin is pumping. So I don't know. Kim, do you have any thoughts on that?
We were trying to figure out why the coin made such a big move. I mean, it started at about 4:30 this morning where it really started going up. And so that's about 7.5 hours ago from when we're recording now. And that was about the time that I saw a bunch of articles and Twitter posts and everything, but some news coming out that Interpol, I don't know how to say the actual word, the international kind of policing agency, they've issued a red alert out on Do Kwon for his arrest, or not a red alert, I'm sorry, red notice. Let me just use the right words. A red notice for his arrest I don't even know, and extradition back to South Korea. I've seen different opinions. It's kind of interesting seeing the different news sources. So New York Times is like, he's wanted for all of his crimes, his financial crimes in the crash of Luna. And then I look at TechCrunch and they're like, it's unfounded. How is he being connected to this? But they're still out for him. So I don't know.
Who knows? I think, this is interesting. I think it'll be interesting to watch and just see what happens with it. But it's interesting to me that Interpol gets involved and Luna Classic both are pumping.
It's bizarre. It really is. And I need to say this about Luna. I'm just going to continue to call it Luna. Like, I know it's Luna Classic, whatever. It used to be Luna. I was a longtime lover of Luna. If you are just starting to listen right now, huge supporter of Luna. I was a huge supporter of their stable coin. Just full disclosure, even if they've tanked, I'm not going to pretend like I wasn't. I'm really indifferent now.
Mm,
I'm not like heartbroken. I am not like still like gunning for them. I'm just really indifferent. I
yeah.
don't hope that it goes down further. I don't care if it pumps and goes back to where it was. I don't know. I would say emotionally, mentally, I am just not really invested. Financially, I'm still invested.
Yeah, financially I'm invested, but there's no point in being invested at this point in Luna. So, yeah, I don't know. That's it's an interesting story for sure. And crypto continues to provide lots of rumors, lots of gossip, lots of interesting things. And there have certainly been a fair share of Ponzi schemes and rug pulls and interesting stories. I'm not convinced Luna was one of them,
I agree.
um, but I know that that's the narrative that's being attempted to be painted at the moment. So,
Mm-hmm.
well, on to new things, on to new and better coins, and on to new and different years.
Yes. So today is actually last night at sundown,
Mhm.
marked the beginning of the new year, the Jewish New Year, 5783, like you already said. Um, honestly, I've been celebrating this feast for like 3 years. I'm not horribly educated in it. You kind of mentioned this too. I will say I do love it. I've really
Mm,
come to enjoy this feast in particular. It's also called the Feast of Trumpets. So it's Rosh Hashanah and it is the Feast of Trumpets.
mhm,
And it's celebrating the new year. You say Shanah Tova, and that is like good year. There's a longer phrase, which I don't know how to pronounce, so I'm not going to even try, that is like a good and sweet year. And there
mm,
are a lot of traditions marked around apples and honey and challah
mm.
bread.
Yeah, things that
And
are sweet and just remind you of the sweetness of a new beginning.
yes, 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 yes. And the reason we talk about new beginnings and celebrate this is it is the celebration of creation. So it is like the anniversary of creation. Um, it starts on the first of Tishrei. I don't know how to say the month even. Isn't that terrible?
Mhm,
Which is actually it's the first of Tishrei is, and Rosh Hashanah is supposed to fall on what was the sixth day of creation
mm.
annually, right? Which was the day that man was created. Um, so I don't know what else do we want to say about that.
Um, yeah, I don't know that there's yeah, it's the celebration of the new year. It's in the Jewish calendar. That's about my understanding of it, if we're being honest. Like, I know there's some tradition involved with it, but that's about my understanding. So I think really what we should talk about is just kind of what does that mean? What does it mean to us? Like, what does a new year represent to us? Typically in a Gregorian calendar, people will set like New Year's resolutions, and it's even, either in either calendar that you observe, a new year is a time of beginningness. Like, you're taking everything that you've carried and saying, hey, this is a fresh start. And sometimes New Year's resolutions are famous for like people not sticking with them and it not happening, but everybody sort of has this internal feeling of, this is a chance for me to start again. And I know it's just happens to be a like another day in our week, but it's like, no, there's something significant about the times and the seasons and the planets and the moons and where they're at and what they're doing. And there is something significant about the beginning of a new year and what that represents. So before we started recording, Kim and I engaged Heaven a little bit, and we decided to not discuss it before we started recording, although we sort of touched on pieces of it. So we're just gonna have a conversation about like what did Father show us, and it may be more specifically for us. Some of it may be a little bit generic, but yeah, I think we'll just go down that road.
Cool. Before we do that, I do want to say this. We looked up some of okay, you talked about we were looking for different prophetic words and stuff about what this year is supposed to represent. And there's a lot of different opinions and words that people have gotten. And the conversation we had is that, isn't it somewhat subjective a bit? Like maybe there's a word that is for the whole body. I don't know what it is. But so many times, if we seek the Lord for new beginnings or like with our mindset there and ask him for that, he will tell us something, right? So 2 years ago, I started seeking him on Rosh Hashanah about the year to come. 2 years ago, he told me, you're going to have a year of forgetting. And boy, did I have a year of forgetting, like everything. And I will also say, prior to that, I had a lot of pride wrapped up in my memory and ability to recall things. So I would have been a great candidate for Jeopardy. I'm good at Trivial Pursuit. Like I can come up with facts like nobody's business. And then I went through a year forgetting, and really, that pride really got torn down quite a bit because I could not access anything. Last year, he told me I was coming into a year of remembering. So for me, that was being able to access memories in a different way than I was before. We've talked a lot on Mystic Mondays about how he will kind of break down the way that you know things and take that away and then rebuild it for you so that it is sourced more from him. And that's kind of what he did with me there. Anyway, that's just background, and I'm sorry that it was so long. But for years I did that on like normal, like January 1st, I would set like an intention or seek like a word of the year. And I think that's pretty normal. Like people do resolutions, people do a word of the year, all those things. And so that's really what we're talking about is we just are seeking the Lord today about like, what does this year mean? What is in store for us? Right?
Yeah. Yeah. Do you want to go over the numbers of the year?
Yeah, let's do it. Do you want to say them? They're Hebrew words, so neither of us are really educated in Hebrew. Right. So forgive us for pronunciation or mispronunciation. That's probably
more accurate.
Yes.
Yeah, so Kim mentioned the year was 5783. So 5 is the Hey, and it means divine revelation or breath of the Creator. 7 is Zayin, which is the sword, spirit, sustenance, and struggle. 8 is Hate, which represents infinite possibility. I like that one.
I like that.
It kind of makes sense though with 8, you know. And then the 3 is the Gimel, representing lifting up, constant transformation, organic nurturing that allows things to grow, and reward and punishment. So I don't know, you could probably string those together and make a sentence out of the definitions of them. But we're just going to talk about what it means to us. Like, and you can seek the Father and engage heaven and see what it means for you. And I would love to hear from you guys about what Father shows you this year means for you.
Agreed. Like sometimes we say on here, oh, reach out, tell us what you're getting from this. I would really, really like to know what he's speaking to you about this year to come, whether corporately or personally. That kind of stuff really interests me and intrigues me, especially when it's coming directly from relationship.
Yeah, for
Wow.
sure.
Okay, so do you want to start, Josh?
Sure, I will. So when I was engaging about, okay, what does 5783 mean to me? The picture that I saw was, it was like a river, but it was like people were the river, and it was just flowing and moving, and I was standing on the shore watching, and I was having this conversation with Father, and he basically just said, "You can choose to step into the flow of what I'm doing, or you can stand on the sideline and watch. And if you stand on the sideline and watch, you're going to be wondering why you're not moving. Like, you're going to be sitting there going, oh man, I thought this year was going to be different. Like, what's going on?" And it's really just about making the conscious choice to step into the flow and to move with what he's doing. And okay, so last week I heard somebody use this analogy, and I wanted to share it with you guys because it was exactly what I was seeing. So they were talking about, like, okay, imagine you are a fly, which Kim can easily do because she's had flies attacking her all morning. Uh, but imagine you're a fly and you are just buzzing around and you're moving at your own speed. You're in a house or a neighborhood or whatever. Like, you know your environment, you know your speed. But you happen to fly through an open window of a car. Well, you're still flying at your own speed as the fly, but now you're in a vehicle that is moving significantly faster. And you may enter that car in New York and get out of the car in North Carolina or something like that. And the whole time you were moving your own speed, but you were part of a body that was moving significantly faster.
Mm.
And so your ability to move, your ability to change what's going on is significantly different when you're part of a body. And it was just kind of the thought process of, like, that's what it's like being part of the body of Christ. Like, you are still your own independent person. You're still moving at your speed, doing what you were created to do. But when you step into being part of the body, all of a sudden your ability for change, your ability for speed, your ability for everything is significantly different. And I thought that was really interesting. That Okay, so I heard that analogy, like, it was a week ago. It was like on Tuesday last week, and then was talking to another friend about 5783, and they basically said the same thing, like, hey, this is a year for acceleration if you choose to be part of it. And then I engaged Heaven and I see the same thing, and it was just really, like, it was personal to me, like, hey, I need to make the choice to be part of the body, to be part of the flow, to be part of the acceleration. But also, that might apply corporately. And yes, it could be a word for 5783, but also I think that's just a word in general. Like, choose to be part of the body, choose to be part of the flow of what's going on, and you will experience rapid acceleration.
That is interesting. Okay, so I will say when I first pressed in as well, I saw a thing like a river and
Mm,
at least a flow of a river. But then I moved on to something else. So when I was seeking the Father about this year, he's okay. Just bear with me and then I'll explain what I got. Okay. Which was after I had to go back and be like, what the heck does this mean? So I heard that it is the year of the dragon or the rise of the dragon, which made me go, what the heck does that mean? Because in a lot of my experience, dragons have generally been a representation of the enemy
mm,
or like an adversary, I would maybe say. And also in my walk, I've been in a place of um, having an interesting relationship with that and not necessarily knowing if I currently have an enemy, if there's something that could potentially even be my enemy. Like I really am supposed to love. I don't know. I'm not going to get into that right now, but I've just been in a strange place with that. Right.
Hmm.
So am I actually supposed to fight? Is there something to battle, or is it really all love? Right. Should I actually only just be loving regardless of whether someone or something is for me or against me? Anyway. Okay. So Year of the Dragon, Rise of the Dragon. And I was like, okay, Lord, what does that mean? And he said, it means it's the year of righteous rising. You can either choose to rise or you can choose to succumb. And
Mm.
if you choose to succumb, then you will be succumbing to the dragon that is also going to be rising in power. If you choose to rise, then you choose to always be above that and be operating from a different, I don't know, I guess level, but it is like a choice. So I think it's interesting with what you were receiving as well. Like it is a choice to step into this.
Yeah.
Um, so will you rise or will you succumb? That was
Mm.
really kind of what I was getting.
Interesting.
Yeah.
That's a really thought-provoking picture. Like, um, yeah, I mean, there's so many conversations that I've been a part of like, oh, are we in the end times, or what does that even mean? And
Mm.
like, dark is getting darker, and um, but really, if you think about just that phrase, like the dark is getting darker, the definition of darkness is actually an absence of light. And so if if the dark is getting darker, that means the people who are supposed to be the light of the world aren't being the light of the world.
Mm-hmm.
And
Hmm.
that to me is so thought provoking because it's like, okay, wait, like that's not the way it's supposed to be. Like this little light of mine, I'm gonna let it shine. Like, like what do you like? That's who we're supposed to be as Christians, as the body of Christ.
Right.
And that's what I see when I think about like rising above or succumbing. Like, are you gonna succumb and are you gonna hide your light and blend in, or are you going to rise to the occasion and stand out and actually be a solution to people and be a light that directs people to the source?
Yeah. Yeah. It's interesting. With your dark becoming darker, I mean,
Mm,
that sounds like the rise of the dragon.
right.
You know what I mean? So if the dragon is rising, and this isn't like, it shouldn't be gloomy, it shouldn't be doom and gloom. That's not how it felt to me when I was receiving
Hmm.
that word. But it really is a call to either choose to like get swept away in that flow, or you choose to rise above it.
Yeah.
And honestly, he didn't say one is good and one is bad.
Mm,
It is like, always I go back to this, which one gives life, you
mm,
know? And so I don't know. I personally feel like this is a personal word, but I guess it could be corporate too. I don't know. I
mhm.
think that if you hear it and it strikes something, you should take it back to the Lord and ask if it's for you too.
Yeah.
Don't just assume. Don't just take this and go, "Oh, but Kim and Josh said." Like that's not going to serve anyone well. If
Mm,
you do that and you say, "Oh, Kim and Josh said," you better be talking to the Father about it. I'll just say that.
right.
You go to him and you say, "Kim and Josh said this," and then have it confirmed by him. Um, and I would say the same about anything that we say, anything that anybody else says. I'm going to get on a soapbox for just one moment. There is scripture that says, "Don't despise any prophecy, but test everything. And it is my very strong conviction that when you test something, it is going back to the Lord and making sure that it's from Him.
Mm,
So then you're not getting secondhand information constantly. It then becomes firsthand.
right. From him and for you.
Correct.
Yeah. I think that's one of the other things we talked about a little bit before we started recording, was I told Kim that I felt like we're in a season where the body is being more defined.
Mm,
And the picture that I had in my head of that was like you wearing mittens versus you wearing like fingered gloves. And to some extent, that can look like separation. Like from the outside, you could see, oh wait, like my fingers aren't all together anymore. Like now they're separate. But really, what you're doing is you're defining the body so that the body is more functional, so that each of the fingers can move independently, but as part of the body and be more effective. And it, to me, I feel like we're moving into a season where that's happening. I've seen it with just some things we're involved in, and um, but it at first, I think it's easy to say, wait, like that relationship is changing, and we're not as close, or it can even look like separation, like. But I think if you really step back and have a higher perspective of what's going on, it's really like stay in love, stay in connection with what's going on, because it's just the body being more defined so that it's more useful.
mhm. It's so good. I think you hit the nail on the head. It might look like separation, but it's not separation, it's definition. It's
Mm,
not separation, it is specialization. So it
yeah.
is allowing people who have been maturing to be able to start stepping into and functioning in the way that they've been personally taught and created to function
Mm,
as part of the whole. So it really is a beautiful thing. And it doesn't, unless you allow it to be separation, it is not separation.
right. I I think like I love all of you enough that I don't want you to look like me. I love you enough I don't want you to look like your pastor.
Yeah.
I love you enough that I don't want you to look like Jesus of Nazareth. I want you to look like you and the individual aspect that you were created to carry, and to walk that out so that the body can be complete. We don't need a bunch of clones of one particular aspect of the body. We need the body as individual pieces to come together as a whole.
Yes.
And I think we have the opportunity to do that. And I think that that's what's going to help like the flow happen. Like we get into the river of people
Mm,
all being individual but moving as one body. And I think that's what that'll help with the flow. That'll help rise above the the situations that are going on in the earth. Like we need each other to be the full expression that we were created to be.
that's so good.
Yeah.
Good. Well, thanks guys for joining today. Again, Shanah Tova. I hope
Yeah.
that you are all either already celebrating the new year or now maybe inspired to do something to celebrate or at least seek the Father on what the new year will have for you. We will see you again back on Thursday. Until then, have a great week.
See ya.
Thank you for listening. Join us every Monday and Thursday as we discuss trading on earth as it is in heaven. If you want to connect further, follow us on social media at market.mystics for Instagram and TikTok, and search for Market Mystics on YouTube and Facebook. If you still need more, follow the link on Facebook to book a coaching appointment. Until next time, see ya.